The World Bank Country Director, Pierre Laporte, has indicated that Ghana does not urgently need an IMF program. Take a listen to him speak to George Rafi this time around on PM Express.
If Ghana goes into IMF program today, it can help certain situations. For instance, if Ghana wants to renegotiate some of the debt, it will put it in a better position, because when it goes to creditors to say, I want to renegotiate my debt, then they will say, okay, what assurances we have that your economic framework is good enough to pay us back what we're going to reschedule. And then an IMF program serves as that guarantee. Okay? But at the same time, a country can go forward and do things without the IMF. Because what the IMF does, it gives you that, that program of reforms, and then it gives you money that goes to help you build your reserves and help you with your balance of payment needs. But to the extent that a country is achieving moderate debt, is having a good revenue collection level on its own, it's managing its fiscal well, it doesn't need the IMF.
And are we doing that?
We've said earlier, there's a mixed picture in Ghana whereby your growth is okay, but your revenues are not strong enough. Your debt is very high. So you can do it without the IMF, but the IMF can always give you something extra flexibility to do more. Like I said, Ghana can, the minister can tackle his revenue situation on his own. He will help his debt situation on his own. But when he wants, assuming tomorrow he decides, I want to go and reorganize my debt, reschedule a bit, he can do it without...
Strengthen our position as we speak.
Now, the decision as to whether to go or not is a sovereign decision that I cannot pronounce on. I can tell you the benefits and you don't need it. It can help you, but it's up to Ghana to decide.
Said Tekpa is a former finance minister. He joins us via Zoom with his thoughts on these submissions by Koko Kwarteng as well as the World Bank Country Director. We're grateful, sir, that you could join us. You've listened keenly to both sides of the argument. The World Bank Country Director, if indeed it's on the table for us to consider.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers and to your listeners. First of all, with the World Bank, I think what we need is even-handedness, and the question is, when we had a single spy, why did the World Bank withdraw budget support if everything was sovereign? In fact, one of the major decisions that prompted us to do the ECF in 2014, not 2015, was principally because the World Bank withdrew budget support even when we had the homegrown policy, which we used to negotiate. So I think the World Bank country, their terrible partners and others. So we need even-handedness so that we are clear in our mind that when the time comes, it's not telling us one thing, and when we are unable to meet our financial obligations and our fiscal continues to deteriorate, they will continue to give the country, the budget support. Honorable Kwarteng was right in that most of IMF money goes to support the central bank. And then it is the World who give budget support. So the question is, if the situation continues to deteriorate and we do not go to the IMF and decisions are being made and they see the deterioration, would we see a recurrence of 2014 where the two boards of directors, that's why we call them Bretton Woods twin institutions, will be taking a decision that is different from what he's telling us now? If they do, then I'm calling for even-handedness. First, the ECF, it wasn't 2 years. There was a conscious decision. We went to Parliament, the records are there. There was a conscious decision to make the ECF overlap the election year so that we can show that we are capable of managing, in an election year. The deficit was 6.1. It was in the Ministry of Finance statement that was issued recently, which means that we came close to the 5%. So, but part of that ECF, Honorable Party knows that part of its money went to the Ministry of Finance. Honorable Party loan that came from the IMF. Yes, it is a loan, and it's a program loan. They went for a dispensation from the IMF board. It's in the report. And we got a waiver to apply it to the fiscal. And he also is aware that even in the current budget under financing, the SDR, which the IMF gave us, part of it is being shown as financing, not balance of payment, support. So these are all candidates that we know. You don't tell us, that IMF money, of the past 3 IMF funds, including the entire 1 billion for the COVID, went into the budget. What was the problem with the budget? And that's why there's a focus. You see, Honorable Kwati mentioned, that he's my good friend anyway, that we went to the Fund for Policy Credibility. I urge him to read Bank of Ghana. I'm not quoting IMF, I'm not quoting an outside source. He should read the Bank for Fiscal Policy Credibility. So fine, I mean, we may have.
Oops, it seems we've lost.
Come out.
Yeah, it seems we lost you, somewhere along the line. But Mr. Tekpe, I want to have your clear stance on this particular matter, especially when, once again, the World Bank's country director says that even though our growth margins are averagely okay, we're having issues with our debt sustainability and our revenue.
That is not connecting with your monetary or not connecting with your fiscal. And let me cite an example. At the point we made 14%, or now on a rebase basis 11%. The fiscal, as a result of single spine, as a result of Doomsaw and others, was affecting the fiscal. So sometimes your decisions are not necessarily linked. And the reason you go for a program is to align the two. And the World Bank country director knows that. That is the situation.
All right.
Now the other thing is that the World Bank president go for their suspension. The World Bank has been cautioning against our fiscal and others. Fitch has been cautioning. Internally, let me come internally. We have had our own academics. We have had our own academics saying that the fiscal situation is not good enough. We have had our think tanks in the last 3 days, including Data Bank, some of the accounting firms, Imani, and others cautioning against the fiscal situation. We have had eminent Ghanaians who have been involved with the management of the economy in the past. What, somebody who is using diplomatic language is telling us the situation is bad. The World Bank itself has told us that the situation is bad. And internally, that is the assessment. When he says that we need a program is not one instrument. A program is not e-levy. So, yes, it is a sovereign right of a country. But let's know that the government is exercising that sovereign right in the interest, including rating agencies and others. So, well, if we want to wind up, let me just say that both internally and externally, the news is bad. Yes, nobody can force us to go to the IMF, even though we had hesitated and gone for 1 billion and another 1 billion from the same IMF. It is up to us to come out with a program, and that is what is missing.
All right.
So the government is exercising that right on our behalf. So the government should simply give us, that program. And I think that we need candidates. We need. Let me just, bring this up. You recall when we were expenditures, bailouts.
Okay.
The country director told us the government had a right. Well, we exercise that right, and we are where we are now. So I think we should be very careful, with diplomatic language that may end up making us complacent until the situation gets worse and we go to the same institutions.
Great.
We are being made complacent. I don't think we should, we should take it. we should face reality. We are not servicing debt. We are not paying arrears. We are technically defaulting in many instances because when you postpone under the Paris Club, you have technically defaulted. So the situation is that, and that is what we should be discussing. Here we are again being told the government is diplomatic, talk. And internally, those institutions know very well that the situation in Ghana is not good, and they should be candid with us.
Mr. Tekpa, we're grateful for your submission there. He's a former finance minister sharing with us his thoughts on the recent debate as to whether or not to visit the IMF. He's calling for even-handedness when it comes to this decision, both from the side of government and development partners as well.